Hello, and welcome to Conditions in Python. My name is Laura Harris, and I'm excited to share with you how conditions are useful in your Python code. Let's get started. A conditional statement tests if an expression is true or false and returns a Boolean value accordingly. Here is a visual flowchart of the if-else conditional statement. You first ask to test the expression. So if something is true. If that condition is met and the condition is true, then we're going to execute a body of code based on that true value. If, however, the expression is false, we're going to see if there's another alternative. So we're going to test a second expression. If the second expression is true, then a second body of code is executed. If the second expression is false, then a third body of code is executed. And so your flow is, if this is true, then execute that. If this expression is false, then we can look at else if a second expression is true or false. If the else if is false, then we execute the else. Okay, that sounds confusing, but let's go through some examples. So here, we're just going to look at the if conditional statement. Is an expression true or false? So I have some examples. Here I have A equals 200 and B equals 33. If B is less than A, which based on this example it is, we will print B is less than A. So you'll notice how my if statement is true, ergo I'm going to print my statement, which is that block of code. Notice the indentation accordingly. If, however, I flip my if statement to be B greater than A, notice how my expression becomes false. And so now I do not return the print statement. Try these out in Python and notice the difference in results. The elif keyword is short for else if. This means that if the previous if statement is false, then try this second condition. So now if I use my A equals 200 and B equals 33, my if statement is B greater than A, which would be false. Now I'm going to go to the elif statement and see if that's true. Does A equal B? No, that is false also. So we do not execute either of these print statements because we have not met either of our conditions. The else keyword is meant to catch and execute code for the conditions that were not previously met. So going back to our original example, if I add an else statement to the end, now I can have a print statement or a block of code where something actually occurs within my program. Okay. So nothing was printed because B is not greater than A and A is not equal to B, but the else statement catches the A is greater than B situation. You can nest if statements. So if I have if statements inside of if statements, that's a nested if statement. So here's an example. We start by defining x as 41. The question, if x is greater than 10, which is true, print above 10 string. Cool, it works. Now, if x is greater than 20, which it is, we then can print also above 20. However, what if our number x was 11, greater than 10, but less than 20? Well, now we have this else statement to catch those situations. So this is an example of a nested if statement. Keep in mind, these can be confusing, so when I do them in my own programming, it is helpful to just sketch out a visualization on a piece of paper or a whiteboard. I've mentioned already that the indentation is critical to Python understanding what code to execute and when. So the indentation are those spaces at the beginning of a code line. Python needs that, as I mentioned, and if your indentation is inconsistent, Python will give you an error. So be aware of that. Also notice that your if, elif, and else statements need a colon. This is immediately at the end of your conditional statement and helps Python know when your statement is completed, just in case your statement happens to run onto multiple lines. Python will give an error if there are missing colons. So here is a visualization of those syntax requirements. Notice that the arrows are referring to the required colons, and these brackets are showing you the necessary indentations. If the indentations or the colons are off, error will occur. We can combine conditional statements using the and or keywords. The and keyword combines the conditional statements, so you need both of them to be true in order to proceed. So in the example here, we still have A is 200, B is 33, and we've added a variable C, which is defined as 500. So if A is greater than B, which it is, and C is greater than A, which it is, both of my expressions are true, my statement is true, and so I will print the statement. The or keyword is used to combine conditional statements so that if one of the statements is true, the code will be executed. So again, I've defined my variables. I've changed my if statement, so if A is greater than B, and it is, or A is greater than C, which it is not, then we're going to print this statement. And so you'll notice this code runs because of the or statement. If you change the or to an and, now the print statement does not execute. Play around with that. So thank you for joining me on this brief tutorial about conditions in Python. It is way easier to understand conditions when you get in and start working with them. And so your assignment for this module is heavily based on these conditional statements. If you have any questions, please reach out. My email address is training@msu.edu. Have a great day.